Kylo's point of view. Kylo was glad to have his helmet when Hux was around. That way Hux couldn't see Kylo's face flush red or look nervous. It was this sense of privacy that allowed Kylo to be in the same room as Hux at all. He knew that a Sith should never have any feelings of this kind, and that just made him all the more ashamed that he, the great Kylo Ren, grandson to the legendary Darth Vader, should be reduced to what could only be described as a bumbling mess by one pretentious, if utterly gorgeous, Sith general. Kylo wasn't used to feelings like this, and for the first time ever, he almost wished that he had somewhere to go, someone to talk to. He didn't want to tell anyone on this ship how he felt. Such feelings were a sign of weakness, he felt, and the best way to deal with them was just to push them down and down until they no longer existed, until he forgot, until he no longer wanted to pull Hux aside, mess up that perfectly neat red hair of his, taste the sweat on the back of his neck. Kylo had never seen Hux sweat once, but he was sure that if he ever got hold of him, he would make him sweat. He smiled at this thought. Hux's point of view. Hux woke up in one of the cells that Kylo Ren kept for interrogating and locking up prisoners. Odd. Hux tried to get up, but his hands and feet were cuffed to the chair he now realised he was in. Hux realised his situation. He was strapped face down in one of the interrogation chairs, his face pressed awkwardly against the headrest. He tried to at least get comfortable so he could wait for someone to find him and go and punish whoever had played this foolish practical joke on him. Most movement was impossible though, no matter how hard he tried. It was then that he heard the breathing coming from somewhere behind him. How had he not noticed it before? There was somebody else in the room with him. Hux let out a false, bitter laugh. "All right, very funny," he snapped. "Now why don't you come over here so I can see your face? Be warned that this act will not go without severe punishment." Hux heard footsteps, and soon enough the culprit was standing before him. Hux started to feel weak. There, standing before him, was Kylo Ren. Hux didn't recall the last time he saw Ren with his helmet off, but here he was now, more beautiful than he remembered. Kylo's hair was jet black and framed his face in careful waves. Kylo's face was the real attraction though, all cheekbones and sharp jaw, with dark eyes that looked like they saw everything. Hux almost swooned. He tried to pull himself together and say something smart, but it was pretty hard to keep his dignity given the position he was in. "Very entertaining, Ren," Hux said through gritted teeth. "Wait until the Supreme Leader hears of this." Kylo laughed, cocking his head to one side, studying Hux with a pout on his lips. He reached out and ran a finger over Hux's pointed nose. Hux looked away, his face turning pink with embarrassment. Kylo sighed. "But you won't be telling him if I don't let you leave this room, so you'd better be nice to me, huh?" Kylo paused and leant in so his face was centimetres from Hux's. "Like the good little boy I know you are." Hux forced himself to look Kylo in the eyes. "You'll regret this," he said bitterly. Kylo just laughed again and lifted Hux's head up with one finger, pressing his lips to Hux's. It was at this point that Hux gave in to Kylo's temptation. His entire body relaxed, and he found his mind focusing on the kiss. Kylo was surprisingly gentle, but nonetheless he made sure there was no way of Hux escaping the kiss, putting both hands on the back of Hux's head, holding him in place. When at last Kylo broke the exchange of saliva, Hux found himself gasping for breath, drool trickling from his mouth. Hux instinctively went to wipe the spit away, only to have the handcuffs dig into his flesh. He let out a small startled gasp, a combination of pain and shock. Kylo buried his face in Hux's neck, kissing, licking, sucking and biting his way across the unblemished skin. Hux squirmed at the feeling of Kylo's hot breath on his skin. This felt so surreal. Did he enjoy it? He shouldn't be. He knew that much. Yes, but was he actually enjoying this? Hux didn't know. He did know that he had no choice but to submit to Kylo though. Hux let out a small cry, Kylo biting his neck harder than before, bringing him back to reality. Kylo chuckled, kissing the spot he had bitten, pleased with the reaction he had gotten from Hux. Hux felt Kylo's large hot hand slide over his mouth, Kylo's lips whispering into his hair. Shh, quieten down, Kylo breathed, running his fingers through Hux's hair. Be a good boy, like I said, huh? Hux was starting to warm to this new, sexy Kylo. Of course he didn't want to let on. He'd just keep quiet. Hux didn't know why, but somehow he was more scared of Kylo like this than he was usually, although one could argue they were both equally dominating. Kylo planted one last kiss on Hux's forehead and walked around the interrogation chair. Hux thought for a moment that Kylo was going to undo the hand and foot cuffs, but Kylo just slid his hands under Hux and up his shirt, feeling his stomach and chest. Kylo, Hux asked, against his better judgment, where is this going? Are we in a relationship now? There is no relationship. There is no attraction, Kylo lied. You just happened to make my lip. I can't do this. You just happened to make my list of things to do today. Kylo's words practically dripped with sex appeal as he calmly unbuckled Hux's thick black belt, sliding it out from underneath him. For some reason, it was only just occurring to Hux what Kylo intended to do. Kylo was going to have sex with him. The adrenaline kicked in, shooting through Hux's body, fueling the arousal that was only just beginning. Even though Hux wanted it, God how he wanted it, Hux was in a panic. He felt the need to delay the event. This is really happening, Hux said, rather redundantly. Yes, Kylo snapped, jerking down Hux's trousers, somewhat irritated. Now be quiet. Kylo pulled Hux's head up by his hair, taking Hux's belt and strapping it like a gag over his mouth and round his head, buckling it tightly.